Welcome to Totally Dacob In Between, where we get to chat live and talk about our favorite pop cultural phenomena. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb up this video and follow me on my main channel, Super Dacob, every Saturday, where we live stream and get to talk about these things. So we were just talking right now about horror movies and what we love the most, and for Halloween and stuff like that. And I gotta say, so I was just talking about for years and years and years, I did not understand, but because I didn't watch it, but I forgot the title of the movie. Trick or Treat. With Sammy, the little tiny, Sammy. Well, he's not that tiny, but I was like, the figure, the little guy with the hood on his head with the lollipop. I don't know. It seems too meh. But then I watched the movie and I was like, oh, I actually really like this. Trick or Treat. I really liked it. Yeah, I really did. But again, I still cannot understand, why they classify Silence of the Lambs as a horror. It's more of a thriller to me. So yeah, the Freddy Krueger text is always the best. So I'm going to repeat that again. So we got 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. 9, 10, he back again. Luminita official subscribe. Thank you for subscribing, sweetie. Yeah, Saturday the 14th. I have not seen the B movie Saturday the 14th. I saw a tiny clip of Hannibal, a scene where an old man is feeding his face to a dog, and it gave me a panic attack, cha. Yeah. But Hannibal is quite different from Silence of the Lambs, although it's still about skinning. So, but as I was saying before, Belial. Basket case. Okay, while we're at it, without showing you the DVDs because I haven't prepared them yet, but let's go into the top 10 movies for Halloween that I would recommend. Okay, as of 2021, because I'm such a huge fan of horror, I might just change my mind tomorrow and give you another list of 10. But definitely, so for the DVDs for the Blu-ray that I have here next to me, for sure, Night of the Comet. Night of the Comet is definitely on my list of 10. Let me write that down as we go along, because otherwise I need to document it somehow. So we got Night of the Comet. Now, this one is from the 80s. A brilliant little zombie type of end-of-world scenario. Beautifully shot, gorgeously shot, especially the teenies in the mall next to the perfume counter. The guy who did the makeup for Nightmare on Elm Street, before that he did the makeup here, and the makeup effects, just brilliant stuff. Then of course, goes without saying really, 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween. It's a freaking masterpiece, and I can go through Halloween over and over and over again, meaning John Carpenter has this power of creating horror without it being heavy, without it being a burden to watch. And it's just, it flows so effortlessly. It is so bizarre. Only, maybe there's a few other directors out there, but nobody really like him creates a soft, cocoony vibe during a horror movie. There's a tenderness to his directing and how he edits and cuts, and it's soothing. I know it's a horror movie, and I know we see killing in it, but it's soothing to watch. It's just so inspiring and beautiful. So definitely Halloween. Now, of course, another one that goes without saying is The Shining from Stanley Kubrick. I mean, okay, now, Halloween is late 70s. The Shining is early 80s, and actually 1980 or 1981. That one is definitely on my list. I love Stanley Kubrick to bits, but The Shining is one of the first horror movies I saw as a kid. Could you imagine? My parents were very liberal. Let me watch Alien. Was the first petrifying. Now, Alien is horror, but it's science fiction. So I don't know if science fiction, if I want to go for sci-fi horror here, I want to go more for quintessential horror without adding sci-fi, because I would love to make a list of my favorite sci-fi horror movies as well, where Alien would definitely be listed. But if we're just sticking to I don't know. Well, let's see. But for now, I'm telling you, definitely. So as a kid, I watched Alien. I still to this day remember the type of fear I felt back then. And then The Shining terrified me. But my parents are very liberal. They're like, Dacob wants to watch The Shining? Let him watch The Shining. That's why I guess horror movies don't scare me as much today. I don't know. But anyway, as of late in these later years, the last really fun horror movie I watched, and a lot of people don't like it in the horror scene. I think it's brilliant. From the music made by Disaster Piece to the casting, the acting, the editing, It Follows. It Follows is the basically youngest horror movie on my list because it's just, well, how old is it? Almost 10 years now? But anyway, It Follows is just brilliant. I adore that movie. Again, it's a teenager, there's teenies involved. Funny how The Shining doesn't involve any teenagers. The Shining has parents and a really tiny kid. But Night of the Comment, teenagers. Halloween, a group of 3 female teenagers, mostly it's about them. It Follows, teenagers as well. I have froze. Oh, I'm back again. So I don't know where to begin from. Okay, it's still filming. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit this one. Okay, the audio worked, so I don't know what to do, you guys. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna keep talking. Sorry about that. So, the 5th movie is going to be Basket Case. Okay, also from the 80s. Basket Case 1, 2, and 3. But if I have to stick to one, of course, number 1. I love Basket Case to bits. Really low budget movie, shot in America, in New York, on location. The New York of the 80s. With the whole scene, it's like watching a documentary on the streets of New York from that time, but also such a lovingly narrated story. The Belial, how they manufacture the puppet, the monster. It's just wonderful. I mean, I love Basket Case. I love Basket Case to bits. And it's also one of those movies you can watch over and over and over again because it's just so authentic. It's so beautiful, beautiful. And then, of course, we got to add Nightmare on Elm Street. But Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going to write that down. Part 2, in my case. Of course, I love Part 1 with Johnny Depp, right? But Part 2 in particular because there's that whole gay agenda in the movie that, that subplot, subtext in the 80s and the fear of HIV and all that stuff is implemented within the horror context. I just think it's so intelligently woven into the subtext of the movie, and the aesthetics of it is amazing. Casting is incredible. It definitely delivers more fear than the first part. So Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is on my top 10 for sure. Definitely. I mean, all of Nightmare on Elm Street, really. Even the later ones that were really funny from Part 4 onwards, up until Wes Craven took it up again to, start seriously anew with the new Nightmare. They're all just brilliant. I'm one of those few people who actually really like the reboot as well. I enjoyed quite a bit the new Nightmare on Elm Street, I got to say. And I even had fun watching Freddy vs. Jason. Hell, why not? Yeah, I had fun watching it. It's not a movie I would want to watch over and over and over again, but it's kind of funny how Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell ends with Freddy's kind of taking out, the helmet, Jason's helmet, and kind of taking him down, dragging him down to hell. That was kind of to like announce that, hey, pretty soon, and then it took like a decade, but they're like, pretty soon there's going to be Freddy versus Jason, and it did happen. Freddy versus Jason is also fun, but it's not on my list, okay, because we can only choose 10, right, if we're doing top 10. But then, now, would we classify Elvira, Mistress of the Dark as a horror movie? I don't know. I mean, just because it's Elvira, but it's comedy though, and I also love Elvira's Haunted Hills. But is that a horror movie? Should we classify it as a horror movie? Jesus says my favorite horror movie is Frozen. Oh my god, you guys. Yeah, teenagers and movies, right? Nightmare at 31 Rue Cambon. That's a good one. Little Chanel horror happening every day. Yeah, it's comedy, isn't it? Okay, so fine. So let's not put Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, or Elvira's Haunted Hills into this list. But I definitely am going to put on my 7th spot from the Charles Band family and Albert Band, it's definitely Terror Vision. Terror Vision is so much on my top 10. I am living for them. Again, set in the 80s. Again, we got some teenagers, but we also got a grandpa involved in it. We got a little monster that's a pet that turned into a wild mutant monster from outer space. And that particular monster from TerrorVision was the monster that they used, that was the major inspiration for Stranger Things Season 3. The Duffer Brothers used that monster to create, literally copied it 1-to-1 basically, to make their monster in Season 3. So TerrorVision received terrible reviews when it first was, you know why? Because it was way ahead of its time, honestly. I just watched it the other day again and I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is just pure art. And they shot in Italy with an Italian crew. So, and Italians have a really good, cinematographer was Italian as well. They have a really good sense of aesthetic for details, cut, image, visuals. It just, everything was so beautiful. That movie, oh my gosh. The teenager daughter looked like Cyndi Lauper because Cyndi Lauper was a thing back then. Her love interest in that show, in that movie, is the same actor who's in White Lotus, by the way, who is the love interest of Jennifer Coolidge in The White Lotus, only like 50 years later. So he was much younger in TerrorVision, but it's so funny how you could still totally recognize him. It's totally him. Oh, get your Super Dacob. Pop culture merch, very 80s glasses, the Super Dacob Chicky and the Hedgehog glass. You can get this stripy one. www.superdacob.com is where you get your merch. So definitely TerrorVision. Okay, we're at 7. 8, let me think. Now, Clean Freak says we should do a 31 Days of Halloween movie club where we watch a film each night till Halloween, ending with the movie Halloween on the 31st. That's amazing. I actually do it anyway. I watch at least 1 or 2 horror movies a day all year long if I have the time. But in this part of the year for sure. Oh, now this is also not really a horror movie, but I really enjoyed last year's release of Scooby-Doo with Elvira. Scooby-Doo Elvira Halloween, or Scooby-Doo Halloween, I don't know what, I have it on DVD. It was like a straight to DVD release, and of course Elvira is involved. I ordered it immediately. A bunch of pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns that look like jack-o'-lanterns from outer space are hunting down Scooby-Doo, the gang, and Elvira, and they're all running away from them, and Elvira is amazing, and the plot twist at the end of the movie is amazing, just for the sake of that 1 second of having Elvira do that one thing, which I'm not going to reveal. I'm not going to spoil it to you. Just for that, the whole cartoon is worth it. But it's not a horror movie, but that's kind of really amazing. But okay, we're talking movies, not cartoons. Okay, but anyway, that's kind of honorable mention because last year kept me through the lockdown watching Scooby-Doo and Elvira. Oh, McAllie, that's a good one. The Fly was my absolute worst as a kid, along with Cujo. You know, yeah, I don't know if I want to put The Fly. It definitely is a wonderful horror movie, but since I only got like 3 more slots left, I'm thinking, I mean, do I want to put, well, okay, so we got Halloween from 1978. And then we got Nightmare on Elm Street. And of course, I want to say Friday the 13th. Yeah, it started the whole boobies out slasher, Camp Crystal. Yeah, I mean, I have the whole collection. You know what? Definitely, especially because there's that plot twist. Who was the killer in the first movie? So let's do let's do Friday the 13th because it's a Kevin Bacon. I mean, come on, Kevin Bacon, that movie. Okay, so let's do Friday the 13th, part 1. Just because it initiated a franchise that is so amazing. And I gotta say, though, you gotta respect the first one, right? But I think I prefer even more Jason Takes Manhattan. I know it's kind of crappy and it was shot on a budget and they ended up not having enough budget to shoot enough scenes in New York like they wanted to. But like Jason making it from Camp Crystal Lake to New York, I know most of the slasher scenes are happening on the boat, whatever. I really love the vibe and the music of Jason Takes Manhattan. But okay, just for the sake of like being a little bit more puristic about it, let's just say Friday the 13th, part 1. Now, we only have 2 more slots left, you guys. Oh, Eraserhead, says Jack. Yeah, you see, I have difficulties classifying my Lynch as my horror guru. I don't know. Lynch to me is more like this dream, uber conscious, meditational. I don't know. I know technically it's also horror. Some people would even say Twin Peaks is a horror, but oh, Poltergeist is Frozen Luxury. That's a good one too. It's just that it's, yeah, Steven Spielberg. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? The Omen, Amityville Horror, Carrie, Debbie says in my top 10. They're all amazing. Yeah, no, Kimberly, The Shining it is in the top 10. I've already listed it. Requiem for a Dream, says Jack. Was that a horror? I don't know. Oh, I still cannot watch Friday the 13th a second time. It is that good, says Mac Alley. I love Friday the 13th. It's not that scary to me, though. Chucky. Oh, thank you. Yes, of course, Chucky. Oh, my God. Chucky. How could I forget you? Chucky's wearing Benetton today. He's a good guy. Chucky, I'm so sorry I forgot you. Of course, you're in my top. And actually, Chucky, you're coming out on a TV show this October, so... And you're going to be surprised. I know everybody loves Child's Play, and I love it too, but if I have to choose just one, and I love Don Mancini. Don Mancini is my horror guru. And I know a lot of people don't like that. I don't care. Okay? I know what I love. But, so, Seed of Chucky is my favorite. So, Seed of Chucky. Also because John Waters is in it. So, Seed of Chucky is definitely... It's more a comedy than a horror. I guess Child's Play would be the puristic approach. It's like that. But I love when Chucky becomes a little bit more comedic, when he has a sense of humor. And he has a lot of it in Seed of Chucky. The masturbation scene, while John Waters is the reporter looking at him. I mean, that is hilarious. So anyway, definitely Seed of Chucky, because it is horror. There's a lot of gore, gut spilling, and stuff like that. But listen, that gender bender moment with Glenn or Glenda, kind of, you know, connecting to Ed Wood Jr. and it's a very clever movie done by a very clever director who is very well aware of gender and the whole homosexual agenda, and it's just depicted through horrors. It's particularly intelligent and well made. And Don Mancini, you're definitely one of my gurus, and I definitely say yes to Seed of Chucky. Now, we got one slot left. Chucky, what do you... He's not going to talk in front of you on the camera, obviously. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Kimberly says, that one is a bit too gory for me to really enjoy it. I love it, but it's not in... Because, just to be very clear, you guys, the movies that I've listed thus far are all movies that I could rewatch over and over and over again without ever feeling like, ooh. Oh, I would put Silence of the Lambs here. Because it is, as I said, at the Oscars, it's the first horror movie that ever was nominated for an Oscar, that won an Oscar. But in reality, to me, Silence of the Lambs is like a thriller more than a horror. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, The Exorcist, says Debbie. You see, The Exorcist is too freaky for me. Okay, Chucky, I'm going to put you down now. I mean, I'm going to not put you down. I'm not going to put it down. The Exorcist is brutal. And just like Saw. Saw is not a horror franchise I enjoy. The Conjuring, the Saw, because it's just brutal for the sake of being brutal. I don't like that. The Saw. So, and The Exorcist is beautifully done and everything, but it's just... It doesn't appeal to me. I wouldn't want to watch it over and over and over again. So these horror movies that I've selected are horror movies that have an aesthetic that appeals to me, have a sense of humor that appeals to me, have a poetry that appeals. Because horror doesn't, to each their own, you guys, please, to each their own. I'm not saying, you do you, right? But to me personally, horror is not about jump scares. That's what I hate about modern day horror movies. It's all about jump scares. There's no psychology left anymore. It's really irritating the shit out of me. So, that's why most of The Conjuring and all that stuff, all that modern day horrors, it's just not for me. I love when there's really a plot, when there's an aesthetic to it, Sure, some of these movies have some jump scares, but they're not all about jump scares like the movies of today. So, in fact, these movies that I've listed thus far have a poetry about them that goes deeper and runs deeper than the pure jump scare. Now, so Silence of the Lambs, if we really, really are going to say Silence of the Lambs is horror, then I would add it to this list, because I can watch Silence of the Lambs all the time. I know that sounds creepy, but I really can. Yeah, Leslie says Silence of the Lambs, I'm with you 100%. But you guys, are we sure? Oh, Fright Night. Yes, Jack. Fright Night. Yeah, I don't know if it would be my top 10. I love it. I actually have it on Blu-ray in my collection as well. Yeah, Debbie says I hate it, so yeah, not for me either. Silence of the Lambs deserves a place for sure. Yeah, you guys, but do we all agree that Silence of the Lambs is horror and not thriller? Like, what do you guys think? Because obviously we could put in the top 10. We could go for the old school Universal monsters, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. But I believe that that's a whole other Olympus of, it's almost like they're a special thing on, I don't know, I mean, definitely they deserve to be in all of these lists, but they're just so quintessentially pure that they can't compete with anything else. Like, they are just so beautifully innocent in a way as well, because they were made in a time of cinema where cinema was at its kind of birth years still. So there's an innocence to how these movies were made. So masterful, nevertheless. I have the feeling I'm missing something that when it comes to my mind, I'm going to be like, oh, of course, this movie. But what is it? American Werewolf in London. Yeah, that's a good one. Slasher versus horror, says Leslie Craig. Now, that's a good point as well, because we have a good slasher here, because Friday the 13th is the slasher. I want to say Nightmare on Elm Street, depending on which episode, which one from the franchise. Some of them are a bit more slasher than others. Dream slashers. A Basket Case is not really a slasher. It Follows has slashing moments. The Shining, definitely a slasher. Even though we don't see the slashing happening, we do see slashed bodies. Halloween, yeah, it's a slasher. Halloween 1 is a delicate slasher. Night of the Comet is not a slasher. Seed of Chucky, slasher it-ish. Terror Vision, not really a slasher. Ghost Ship is a frightening movie. It is, but I wouldn't put it in my top 10. Candyman, I did not enjoy that much. You see, Angela Kier says, I think it's a thriller. Silence of the Lambs. So, yes, Aisha, definitely Silence of the Lambs could kind of happen for real. No? Yeah, Gary, true. Silence of the Lambs could happen for real. So, let's just put Silence of the Lambs as honorable mention. But I love it to bits. The music. Ah. And Jodie Foster with her shush, Yes, sure. Yes, sure. Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster to solve the case. She won an Oscar. Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar. The movie won an Oscar. The director won an Oscar. Oh my God. Silence of the Lambs literally slayed that year at the Oscars. And not that we care for the Oscars, but it was kind of cool to see a movie like that actually get recognition. Silence of the Influencers. That's a good one, Jack. So we're still missing number 10. Now, Poltergeist, as I said, you know what I mean? But it is scary that all the little girls that were in it kind of died. Weird things were happening to them. So there's like a lot of weird stuff connected to that movie. You like Contact with Jodie Foster, Jack. It's you and Katya Zamolodchikova, huh? You two love your Contact, don't you? Mo S says, I don't like movies that deal with spirits or things that you can't outrun, like The Exorcist. The Evil Dead scared the hell out of me, and I'll never watch that again. When I first watched Poltergeist, I was little. It scared me a lot. Yeah, Leslie. Science fiction versus horror versus slasher versus horror thriller, which is kind of what Silence of the Lambs is. Gremlins, I love. Jack, I love Gremlins, but Joe Dante, right? He made the. It's a little bit like cutesy. It's like Disney goes horror in a way, you know. I love it to bits, both Gremlins, but don't touch my Gremlins. I love them, but horror, campy. No, it's fine that they're campy. CC Spy says, I really enjoy the Spanish horror movies, Veronica, based on real events, and The Orphanage. Those two would be on my list. The Orphanage, I think I've watched as well. Oh, and the Spanish Wreck, I've watched as well. That one was kind of creepy, but again, too many jump scares. You know, somebody would say, oh, Blair Witch Project. Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to put one in. I found my number 10. Now, although I'm going to contradict myself because my number 10 is not a movie I want to rewatch ever. But it's the one that in the past, let's say, I don't know, 15 years has scared me the most. The horror movie that has scared me the most. I don't know why. Maybe I watched it in a particularly vulnerable point in my life. Or what have you, but I know that I could not even step off of the couch to go to bed. I could not move after I watched it. And I watched it in the middle of the night with a friend of mine. And that's Paranormal Activity. Now, I know it's like whatever, but Paranormal Activity, the first one, just because it's so simple and it's just so cheap, it looks real because it's literally, and I hate that, the infrared cameras filming you at night while you're just like standing there like, listen. But again, it doesn't flow with this list because the list is about the horror movies with that quality that I could rewatch them over and over again. Paranormal Activity scares me. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. Jonna Oates, that's interesting that you say. The original Japanese version of The Ring doesn't scare me. I mean, it's a different culture. They are scared out of different reasons for different things. The Japanese version of The Ring doesn't scare me as much as the original. That is the original. As much as the American version of The Ring also didn't really scare me, but scared me a little bit more than the Japanese original version. CC Spy says, oh yes, Paranormal Activity, because it seems real. It makes you feel like it could happen to anyone. Yeah, exactly. CC Spy. Ugh. Hey, Dixie Smitherman, how you doing, sweetie? Welcome to the chat. It's really scary, you guys. Jack Dean says, I think it would scare me even on a bright summer day. Paranormal Activity definitely scares the bejesus out of me. But it's not a horror movie that I would recommend. You know, like, hey, this is really good. This is gonna enrich you culturally watching it, like these other 9 would. So should I put that on the list or not? Let's hold it there for a second because it's not a movie I would like to rewatch. All of these other movies that I've listed, I would rewatch over and over and over and over again. That's how much I love them. So, Witches of Eastwick, Jack. Oh, I love Witches of Eastwick. But that's more, that's also, yeah, it is a horror, but, well, then Beetlejuice. Is Beetlejuice a horror? If Beetlejuice is a horror, I would put it on the list. Is it a horror, though? But Witches of Eastwick. Love it. Another 80s miracle of a movie. Seriously. John Oates loved the others, but I don't know if it's really horror, but it was well written. Dixie says, okay, get the book Intensity. You will have to put it down every few pages. Not paranormal, but is scary. I haven't read that one. CC Spy says, you need to watch Veronica if you haven't, and then listen to her parents being interviewed on Spanish radio. Freaky. Ugh. Sounds freaky. Just listen. Gosh, it's so hard to decipher, says Jack Deed. Not sure about these being horror, but Shudder and Mandy. I haven't seen either one of the two, Jenny. Isabella says, friend of mine tricked me into watching Paranormal Activity. I had nightmares for a year and we're no longer friends. I'm telling you, Isabella, because you told me before that you're super scared of horror movies. Like this is, and I'm never scared of horror movies, but I was scared of this thing. So if you're scared of horror movies in general, and this is the only horror movie you watched, girl, I can imagine that you couldn't sleep for a year. Oh, yes, Debbie. I did mention in the past Flowers in the Attic. But Flowers in the Attic, again, thriller, kind of how the mother tortures the kids. Is that horror? Because then we could also say Mommy Dearest is horror. It's not, you know? Oh, man, it's so hard. I thought it was going to be so easy, but I just love horror movies so much. It's like kind of hard to pick number 10. The Others and Sixth Sense, says Aisha. I love scary movies parody of The Ring. Good. Scream. Should we put Scream in there? Another Wes Craven moment? Oh, yes, The Abominable Dr. Phibes or Phoebe. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, horror, yeah. What psychological terror again, says Debbie? Scream? Scream is horror, though. Oh, yeah, Dixie says, yeah. I know. The Exorcist is not really scary, but I just... Annabelle and It, says Angela here. Yeah, I'm not really... It doesn't do it for me. And I did not like the remake. I prefer the 80s version. Annabelle, just no-go for me. Total no-go. Possum is terrifying, says Lisa Rose. Scream works, says Jack. I was reading all the VC Andrews books in 7th grade and watching that movie, and my parents didn't even care. Like, all the incest alone. Oh my gosh. Jesus says, It is so silly and childish. The 80s It is kind of cute, though. I mean, you could also say, in that case, Rocky Horror Picture Show is a horror movie, too, but it ain't. But, you know, when it comes, oh, hold on. I have here, I mean, could we consider Garbage Pail Kids horror? You know, I'm a huge fan of the Garbage, and since R.L. Stine started writing the books, I read them religiously. This is the first one. I also have the second one. Only two have come out thus far, but he's coming out with a third one. I think he has a contract for, was it 5 books? I forgot, or 7. But Garbage Pail Kids, it's not really horror, but I just live for this stuff. Anyway, Suspiria, says Jack Dean. Yeah, maybe. Okay, Debbie says no. Flowers in the Attic and Silence of the Lambs are psychological terror. Yeah, okay. Scream deserves a place, says Aisha, right? Because I like to rewatch Scream because it has that energy, that zhuzh. Scream, and you know they're shooting Scream 5. Leslie Craven, I guess you got that from a dictionary? Or Leslie says, the aim of a horror movie is to elicit fear or disgust. Ah. Oh my God, I was gonna say something super shady, but I ain't gonna. Oh, Dixie! Hitchcock, yes! The Birds. Should we do The Birds or Psycho? But come on. Nothing can compete with Hitchcock, just like nothing can compete with the Monsters movies from Universal. Like, how can we... Psycho, The Birds. Rebecca is even a horror. Well, that's more psychological. Yes, Aisha, of course I've seen Browning's Freaks. Love it to bits. That's I think one of the first movies that ever entered. It became like a cultural protected good of America. It's yeah, Psycho is amazing, but is Psycho horror? Because Psycho could be just like Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, The Crow is a good one. I think Psycho because it can happen in real life. That a guy thinks he's his mother and kills people. Like, it can happen. So it's like Silence of the Lambs. I guess the birds is more like non-explainable. What actually why the birds are attacking? It's like the Blob. Ooh, the Blob is a good one, but maybe a bit too science fiction. Little Shop of Horrors is also a great horror movie, but like musical. Like I'm talking about the musical version, not the first one with Jack Nicholson. Like The Birds is horror, really, because it's not explainable, you know. But then you could also say Jaws. Jaws is just like The Birds. Like, okay, a fish starts attacking people. Sharknado. As much as I love the franchise, I'm not going to put them on the list. Anthony Perkins really did a great job in Psycho, for sure. But Anthony Perkins is like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. There's kind of the similarity there. Jack says, we did a production of Little Shop of Horrors in school. Oh my God, good times. That is amazing. Thank you for becoming a patron, Julie Son. Thank you so much. Thank you. Give it to Scream. They brought it back, the genre, right? Dancer in the Dark, only the ending though. Yeah, Dancer in the Dark. Hold it. If you want to do brain dead. Dancer in the Dark. Really? Why can't I remember his freaking name? Anyway, more than Dancer in the Dark, I think Dogville is terrifying with Nicole Kidman. Lars von Trier. So if we're gonna, I mean, first of all, I think from Lars von Trier, we would have to take Kingdom, but it's a TV show. So, but that's scary. Kingdom. And more than Dancer in the Dark, I think Dogville is more terrifying. But again, psychological thriller. So, yeah, Debbie, gotta give it to Scream, right? They brought it back, the genre. Yeah, Twilight Zone, also amazing, for sure, as a TV show. Yeah, Lars von Trier. Dixie says, what was the daytime movie with the vampire? My grandma loved it. What do you mean daytime movie? I don't know. Twilight Zone, yes. Yeah, but it's a TV show, you guys. I mean, technically we could just say Scream. Then Wes Anderson takes the cake because then we've given him Nightmare on Elm Street and we've given him Scream. So technically, oh my God, Jack says Scream has it. Yeah, Deb says daytime TV was Dark Shadows, soap opera, like Days of Our Lives, says Dixie Smitherman. Dogville was indeed terrifying. Get Out I considered horror. Yeah, Dogville was terrifying. And they were supposed to do Dogville too, but because Lars von Trier is cuckoo and Nicole is too much of a famous actress to, you know, she's like, sorry, I'm not going to do part 2. No. She didn't want to do part 2. Tales of the Unexpected had a few gems in there. Dark Shadows, says Dixie. Tales from the Crypt, again, TV. Hammer horror films are amazing. Damn, you guys, I mean, there's like so many good ones. All right, let's give it to Scream. Because for lack of a better one, not that Scream isn't good. I love Scream. Love it. And it's a movie I can rewatch over and over and over again because there's enough humor in there to balance out everything. Although Scream, again, is a psychological type of terror because it can happen in real life. Christine was amazing, Mo. Everything John Carpenter. The Ward, Christine, The Thing, The Fog, Out of the Mouth of Madness, or however it's called. Is Mars Attack, not Mars Attack, Mars Aliens from Mars. Also, I love it, even though it was kind of low budget. I still love it, even if it's one of his, like, you know, younger for his standards movies. Still love it to bits. The Invisible Man, The Village of the Damned, all John Carpenter movies. Escape from LA, Escape from New York. He did all of those. He did Starman, which I'm looking at. I have it right here, actually. Starman is also John Carpenter. I love Starman. It's not a horror movie, but I just love Starman. Dixie says anything by Stephen King, Pet Sematary. You see, Stephen King movies are not scary. The only Stephen King thing that turned out scary was Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And then Stephen King is like, damn, Stanley stole the show. How dare he? You know, so he's like, I don't like the movie. But like, Stephen King, I'm sorry, but The Shining is amazing. Stanley outdid you there. You gotta hand it to him. It's okay. You wrote amazing books, but just hand it to him. Just hand it to him. He did great with The Shining. You did great with all the other things, but just give that to him. Will ya, Steven? Come on. You know, be the greater guy. But yeah. Leslie says, this is not really my genre, but it's amazing how many movies I have seen that you have mentioned. Yeah, I'm telling you, Leslie, you are into horror. Lisa Rose says, love movie chats. Can you do this more often, Dacob? I haven't been doing it all day. He writes a book a day, I think, says Dixie. Yeah, I really enjoyed that little tiny short novel called Elevation. Cried my heart out. Elevation was really beautiful. I highly recommend Stephen King's Elevation. Jack Dean says, I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. Ah, the song. Yeah. So anyway, okay, 10 is Scream, but I also want to do 10A. We don't know if it's really Scream or if it's Little Shop of Horrors. Now, listen. Just wait, who was it? Robert Zemeckis? Did he do Little Shop of Horrors? Not the one with Jack Nicholson, but the one with Rick Moranis. Technically, you could also do Ghostbusters. Is that a horror movie? I'm looking forward to Ghostbusters 3. I even enjoyed Ghostbusters with the chicks. Anything Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Another 80s amazing thing. Sigourney Weaver, Queen. Ghostbusters is really good. Is that a horror movie though? Listen, if Ghostbusters is a horror movie, then so is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Just saying. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit would definitely be on my list because I freaking live for that movie. Okay. Did you guys know that Kathleen Turner voiced Jessica Rabbit? She didn't want to credit because she thought that the other people who were voicing the other characters who were actually on the stage and on the set during the filming, she was pregnant, so she was never on set. She just gave her voice and that's done. And so she was so noble that she thought, well, all my colleagues have actually been on set all this time. I don't deserve a credit. Yeah, and she didn't get a credit. But we all know it's her. And she speaks about it in interviews. So it is her, Kathleen Turner. Well, you see, in that case, should we put Serial Mom from John Waters in this? Although that's another thriller. And they say at the beginning of the movie that it's based on real events. So that's not really horror. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is good. Night of the Living Dead is also amazing. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, obviously masterpiece, cult. But again, Night of the Living Dead to me goes with Hitchcock, The Birds, goes with the Universal Monsters, goes into that epic Olympus that is untouchable, I think. Yeah, Rose and Luxury. I'm not bad. I was just drawn that way. Jessica Rabbit. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is amazing. But again, that's another one of those that goes into that epic. You can't, come on. How can you do Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Night of the Living Dead. The Birds. How you can't put them with, I mean, besides the fact that they're in black and white. You can't really, they're just, they've defined the genre for the future. So it's like really hard to, you can't really, you know. Serial Mom is just amazing. But anyway, so we got these 10. Night of the Comet, Halloween from 1978, The Shining from Kubrick, It Follows, Basket Case, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Terror Vision, Friday the 13th Part 1, Seed of Chucky, Scream, or Little Shop of Horrors, and then honorable mention to Silence of the Lambs just because it's not really horror but more thriller. There you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thumb up this video if you've liked it. Let me know in the comment section down below your top 10 favorite horror movies of all time, at least for now, for this Halloween season. And I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye. This was totally Dacob. Bye.